Welcome back to video number 2. I added a little extra information on this first slide. You definitely want to write that down. This will be very helpful with our second video today and with your homework tonight as well. So it says if there's no exponent, then the exponent is the number 1. And also, if the exponent is a 1, you don't have to write it if it's the final answer. So if you're in the middle of doing a problem and a variable doesn't have an exponent, you can put a little 1 for the exponent. Because it does technically have an exponent, it's just the most common exponent, so we don't write it down. But as you're doing your math, it will be helpful to write it down. Now, if you get to your final answer and the exponent is a 1, you don't need to write the exponent of 1. You could then go back and get rid of that number. So if you're in the process of doing work, put an exponent of 1, but if you've reached your final answer, you don't need the 1. Hope that made sense, and if it didn't, ask me tomorrow. In this second video, we're going to take that rule that I explained in the first video, and we're going to use it on some more complicated problems. So problems with coefficients and variables and multiple different types of variables and stuff like that. So here's our first example, and I'd like to point out that the directions have changed. This one asks you, what is the simplified form of this expression? So they want you to simplify it as much as possible. So in these problems, we would keep going if we got like a negative exponent or something like that. In this problem, we are multiplying. It looks like we're multiplying 2 things together, but technically everything is being multiplied, right? The 4 is being multiplied with the z to the 5th, and that's being multiplied with the 9, which is being multiplied with the z to the negative 12. Since this is just one ginormous multiplication problem, if we wanted to, we could switch the order around and we could put things together that go together. For instance, my coefficients of 4 and 9, those can go together and be multiplied together. I am allowed to multiply the 4 times the 9. And I have 2 letter z's. So we just learned in the last video that I can combine those into 1 letter z if I add their exponents. Next, I just have a little bit more simplifying. So I need to figure out what is 4 times 9. I need to figure out what is 5 plus negative 12. So 4 times 9 is 36, and 5 plus negative 12 is negative 7. Now again, based on these directions, I do want to keep going, and I want to use the information that we learned yesterday as part of today's problems as well. So every day we'll learn a new rule, and then we'll just kind of keep adding it on and on until we've learned all the rules and we can do all of the problems. So based on what we learned yesterday, I am going to take that z to the negative 7th, and I'm going to drop it below the fraction bar. I'm only taking the letter z because that's the only thing that the negative 7 was attached to. It was not attached to the 36. This is my final answer. Let's do one more together. So in this problem, again, it looks like I have 3 things being multiplied. Technically, it's 6. It's the 2 and the a and the 9 and the b to the 4th and the 3 and the a squared. So let's do a little bit of rearranging again. I can take all of my coefficients and push them to the front of the problem and multiply them all together. And then for my variables, I can only combine them together if they're the same letter, if they have the same base. So I can combine my a's together, but I can't combine my b with my a's. And this is one of those problems where we would want to write the number 1 with this letter A so that we remember to add a 1 with this 2. So a very common mistake that I see students make is they'll see this 2 and they won't see a number over here. And so they'll be, oh, 2, oh, it's just going to stay a 2. And they'll forget that there's a 1 here. So this is a scenario where you would want to write down the number 1 so that you remember to add the 1 with the 2. And then again, notice that the b is all by itself. Next, I'll figure out what 2 times 9 times 3 is, and then I'll also figure out what 1 plus 2 is. Now, in this problem, I don't have any negative exponents, and so I'm good. I'm done. That's the final answer. I'd like you to try a couple of these with me on the video before you start your homework. So here are 3 for you to try all by yourself. Remember that you're going to try them. You're going to pause the video, And then once you have answers for all three of them, then you can come back and check and see if you did them correctly. All right, hopefully you finished. And so let's go ahead and check and see how we did. So on the first one, I got 15x to the power of 14. 15x to the power of 14. If you got this one wrong, maybe it's because you forgot that there was a 1 right here. All right, on the next one, I got negative 56 c d squared. Now, the negative 56 is a negative number, but it's not a negative exponent, so it doesn't need to move below the fraction bar. And for the letter C, 3 minus 2, that becomes a 1, but we said in a final answer, the 1 is not required. So technically that is C to the first, but you don't have to write the 1. On that last one, don't forget that this J has a 1, so 2 plus 1 is J to the third, and then the K does need to drop down below. This is the end of our second video.